Welcome back. We have our basic HTML document in place. Now it's time to figure out how to run some JavaScript from the browser. This is going to allow us to change what the user sees or respond to things like user clicks. Now to do this, we're going to be using a new tag in HTML. This is the script tag. We're going to define this right inside of the head of our document. So let's take a quick moment to do just that. Inside of head, as its content, we're going to add the script tag. So less than sign, script, greater than sign, and as always, it gets auto-completed. What goes inside of here is our JavaScript. So for example, we can put anything in here that we could put in the JavaScript files we ran before. Let's keep things simple for the moment and just make sure that it actually runs by using a console log. So console.log, we'll print a little message. This is from my HTML document. I'm going to save this file. The browser is automatically going to refresh. And if we head over to the browser, we can see that nothing looks different. So when we ran our applications previously, we were able to see the output, what was console logged, in the terminal. But in the browser, we don't have a terminal. So how do we get access to it? Well, we actually have browser developer tools. The developer tools allow you to see various things, including the various files that were requested. We can see all sorts of cool stuff like how long the page took to load. We can also see a console that shows everything that happened with our JavaScript, including errors, or in this case, our little message. Now, all browsers have it, i.e. Safari, Chrome, Firefox, any others. The difference is in how you access it. For Firefox, you just go down to Web Developer, and here we're looking for Web Console. For your browser, you're going to have to dig through those menus to find the correct thing, but they all do have some sort of console. And when we get into the developer tools, you can usually use the tabs to navigate to the various pages. So in this case, if we go to Inspect, I can actually view my HTML document, and as I highlight over things, it shows where those live. If I go to console, I can view the console.logged output. In this case, what do I get? I get my little message. This is from my HTML document. So clearly, our line of JavaScript did indeed run. Down below that, we have a second message saying live reload is enabled. This is coming from the live server software. It's just letting us know that it is indeed running correctly. So this is one way we can run JavaScript in our browser. We can put it in a script tag right inside of our HTML document. This is something that clearly works, but it's not ideal. As we saw in the previous sections, for our applications that don't even have all of the features, they get pretty long pretty quick. We want to avoid mixing HTML and JavaScript in the same file. So what we're going to do instead is move all of our JavaScript to a separate file and load that in. It's going to have the exact same result. We'll be able to run JavaScript from the browser. It's just a different way of organizing things. So over in the Notes app, I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call this one notes-app.js, and in here, we're going to put our JavaScript, which will, once again, just be a console.log call with a different message. This is from a different file. So if we see the new message, we know things worked. Now, saving the file isn't going to actually do anything. We still have to load it in. We have to tell this document to use that file. How do we do that? Well, step one is to remove the inline script. So the inline script is the one we type right in line in our document, and we're going to load in the external script. Now, we still use the script tag for that, but we have to add on what's known as an attribute. So with our tags, we can obviously specify the content, and we've seen this. H1 has some text, the P tag has some text, but we can also customize each tag with an attribute, and each tag has its own set of attributes, and we'll explore these in the documentation in just a second. So right after the T in script, but before the closing greater than sign, I'm going to type a space, and I'm going to set up my attribute. An attribute is just a key value pair. In this case, the attribute we're trying to set is called source, shortened to src. And then we set it equal to using the equal sign, and then we set up some double quotes. So right here, 2 double quotes. What goes inside of here is the attribute's value. Now for the script tag, if we're using the source attribute, what goes inside of here is the file to load, the script to load. In our case, it's called notes app.js, and it's sitting right alongside of index.html. Now if we go ahead and save this document, it's going to grab that script, run it, and show our document. So it'll have the exact same effect as before, just with a different message. Here I get my new message. This is from a different file. So using the script tag, we can provide our inline scripts, but as we saw, this is not ideal as it creates more confusion. By creating an external script and loading that in, we're able to better clean things up. We have our HTML in one place and our JavaScript in another. We're not trying to merge the two and create something that ends up being a bit more confusing. So this is the solution that we're going to use to load scripts into all of the HTML documents we create in this course. This is the same technique that I use for all my clients, my personal website, or any other project I'm working on. Now, if you ever forget how the script tag works, the documentation is going to guide you in the right direction. So I can go over to the MDN docs, I can back out to the page that lists all of the elements, and I'm just going to use the find on page feature to look for the script tag. It brings me right to that location and I can read the description. The HTML script element is used to embed or reference executable code. This code is typically JavaScript. So we already saw how we can embed it by putting it in line, or how we can reference an external file using the source attribute. If you actually click over to that, you can view examples of both. So it talks a bit more about the exact details, and then down below we see a list of attributes. Now there are quite a few more attributes than the one we explored. Here we have one called async, cross-origin, defer, all sorts of attributes. But if we scroll down, we do see the source attribute. This attribute specifies the URL of an external script. This can be used as an alternative to embedding a script directly within the document. And that's exactly what we saw. We had the script in line, we used the source attribute, and we were able to move it out of the document itself. Right here, if a script element has a source attribute specified, it should not have a script embedded inside its tags. That just means if I am using the source attribute like this, I don't also want to put stuff inside of here, like another console.log call. We want to stick to either one or the other. Either put something in the script tag or leave nothing in there and just use the source attribute. So do remember that the documentation exists. If you ever forget how something works or you're trying to use a new feature, this documentation is going to be your best friend. Now that we have this in place, we have a basic JavaScript file being loaded into our document, and we're ready to actually do something a bit more interesting. What we're going to focus on from here is how we can use JavaScript to interact with the web page. For example, what if I wanted to change the text right here dynamically based off of some calculation using JavaScript? Well, we can do that. What if I had a button and I wanted to run some code when it was clicked? We can do that as well. All of this is coming up next, so stay tuned and I'll see you in the next video. Don't worry, we'll get back to challenges now that we have the very fundamental setup in place. I'll see you next time.